Welcome to the Duke Trap Studios, home of the Keystone Experience, brought to you by Creek Archery. Find your passion, then hunt it down. Hillview Motors, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Remember, Hillview has it. What's going on, everybody? Hey, we got two special guests with us this evening. We got Representative Mandy Steele and Daniel Sneath.
I'm a legislative director for Hunter Nation here in Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. There we go. See, I got to screw something up at the beginning of this so it'll go smooth the rest of the way through. So, and Representative Steele is responsible, her and some other representatives are responsible for getting the ban lifted on the Sunday hunting, but we'll go back and figure out how you wanted to get involved in hunting since you didn't start as a hunter.
Yeah, that's right. So do you want me to, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm so glad to be here.
I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. Do you want me to tell you a little bit about my story?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Well, I didn't grow up in a hunting family, and my husband doesn't hunt, but I have four young kids, and I spend a lot of time outside. I really love the outdoors a lot, and so we're always outside, fooling around camping or hiking or fishing or doing something. And when my kids started to get a little bit older, they're 8, 10, 12, and 14 now, I started to kind of understand the incredible value that is in raising a kid around the hunting traditions that we have here in this country. And that is for so many reasons. I mean, as someone who cares a lot about land and wild places, I came to realize that hunters were responsible for some of the largest land acquisitions that we've ever seen in this country, that their hunting dollars go to protecting land and its natural habitat and protecting the wild animals that live there in those places. And that is really personally important to me. But then when I started to kind of dip my toes into this a little bit, and I saw the effect that it had, especially on my oldest son, where he was out now in the woods in a different way. He was sitting quietly and watching the animals and watching how the weather changed the dynamics of the woods, and picking up on paths, animal pathways, and really how he just became like alive and awake in this way that felt almost very ancient. It was like a part of his brain had been activated. And I was feeling that same thing. And it was just this like incredibly powerful experience that we had. And I saw that it has just become this really like grounding force in my kids' lives and in my life. And I have been so lucky to be welcomed into this community by people like my good friend Dan Sneath, who's on this podcast with us tonight, and have made some good friends like Ed Sadler, who has taken me out hunting, and I'm a pretty good shot. And I cooked a beautiful pheasant stew for Christmas dinner with my kids, and it's just been a heck of an experience. I can't tell you how enriching it has been to us as a family.
So you just started hunting not long ago. So
yeah, not long, in my 40s. Yeah.
Now, and your children are all taking part in the hunting. They went through the hunter safety course, and
yeah. So my youngest is not yet on board, but she always listens when we're talking about it. Everybody fights over the PA game news, and the kids are on board. They really love it, and they can't wait for squirrel season. We haven't been out for squirrels yet, but I think that's going to be really good for us. So we're looking forward to that this September.
Well, I have a running joke with a lot of the game wardens that I'm buddies with, and I I keep saying, when are we going to get a 365-day squirrel season? Because as a
Yeah.
bow hunter, squirrels and chipmunks are the most annoying critters you're going to find in the woods. When you're
Yeah.
trying to sit there and watch for a deer and you get a bunch of squirrels running around and you think 160-inch whitetails walking up behind you, turn around and it's just
Yeah.
a little gray squirrel. You get, you know, it's just a running joke with all them guys. I said, I'm going to keep pushing and pushing until we get a 365-day squirrel season in Pennsylvania. So
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe that'll be the next cause that Dan and I fight for.
So Dan, how you've been around hunting just as long as I have, pretty much.
My whole life. Grew up on a farm. My dad was actually with the Game Commission for 40 years. I'm retired from the state police, but I grew up with that connection to the outdoors. You know, we're a small farm family here, rural Pennsylvania, down in Huntington County. Lived in rural Pennsylvania my whole life. I've been hunting since I was 12. You know, because back then we didn't have the Mentor Youth program started when we were able to get our hunting license. You remember?
Right.
And that's 46 years ago now. I've hunted every season since I was able to. So
I was just down your way not too long. Well, actually, the last day of rattlesnake season, I was down there climbing around on those mountains up there trying to find the only one I haven't got yet was a legal size yellow male to keep. I got a black timber rattler probably 10 years ago that was 51 inches, and I got him mounted, and now I'm trying to find a yellow. But those yellows that big are hard to come by. So
yeah, it's funny here in Huntington County too. I just left the county fair, and I was walking out. Like I said, I'm retired from the state police, and the county sheriff was coming, old friend, and he's with Representative John Joyce. So I got a chance to meet Representative Joyce tonight. Of course, he wanted to talk hunting too. So, so it's great.
So, how did you come about to push for this ban that was on Sunday hunting? How did this come about?
Yeah, well, so, as I started to get my family into this, it became clear that we had a real big problem in Pennsylvania, which is that you couldn't hunt on Sundays. And so for a big, busy family like mine, that's a major problem. That's a major hurdle. And it's a hurdle for working people. And so then I started to try to figure out what could be done. But there's a lot of history here. People have been fighting to get this ban lifted for 50 years. So there were a lot of people working in this space. And Pennsylvania has when we started working on this, just 2 blue laws remaining. These blue laws are over 300 years old. You couldn't buy a car on Sunday. You still can't do that. And you also couldn't hunt on Sunday. So that, again, seeing what a barrier that was to my own family, and figuring there've got to be thousands and thousands of people like me across this state, I began to realize that we needed to reconsider the way that this was structured. And so, because there were all these advocates in this space, I had an incredible resource pool. And Dan Sneath, who was with Hunter Nation, was one of those people. And so many of these people, especially Dan Sneath, and Dan and I have become very good friends through this work, but they became real guides to me and helping me understand what had been done so far in the legislature, what the landscape was. There were a couple of senators who had been working on this issue for a long time. Originally, Senator Jim Brewster had this legislation to get the ban lifted on Sunday hunting, and currently Senator Dan Laughlin had the legislation, and both had done great work and welcomed me into the fight, all of us together. And so then when we had Senator Laughlin as a Republican member of the Senate and me as a Democrat member in the House, and then all the advocates out there, really between all of us, we were able to convene a conversation that was critical. And that was a roundtable discussion where we had all of the hunting advocates there and also all of the Farm Bureau there. Because what another factor in all of this is that farming is a big industry in Pennsylvania, a lot of money at stake, and farmers have been experiencing record crop damage. And so many of these farmers represented by the Farm Bureau were saying, hey, we need help. We need more hunters on our land to help mitigate crop damage. So once that conversation was convened with everyone at the table, listen, this moved fast. And our governor, we're very fortunate because our governor, even though he is not a hunter, he's real tuned into things like this. He gets, my experience with him has been that he really gets kind of what matters to people, even when it's not something he has direct experience with. He's good at sitting and listening and kind of quickly grasping a situation. So once we moved my legislation through the House, and we got it over to the Senate, and then we got it to the governor's desk. The governor signed it into law in record time. So it's been a 50-year fight. But when I came into it, I was just lucky to be in the right place at the right time with all the right players, and we were just able to pull it all together and make it finally happen.
And Dan, the Hunter Nation, I'm sure you guys, helped a lot in this, along with other organizations. I know you and what is it, the Pennsylvania Federation of Sportsmen and Conservationists. I know you two were two of the biggest ones pushing, for this. And I appreciate the work that both of you's done, because me as a hunter, I was spending $300 to $400 a year to go out of state, because I always tell my wife, I got to hunt 7 days a week or I'm going to explode. When the fall comes, I have to be in the woods. That's where I need to be. And, so I took up coyote hunting because I could do it on Sundays. Well, that just become an obsession. So it's whitetails, coyotes, and out of state. So, now my wife's happy. We got the Sundays. I'll be staying home. I won't be going to Ohio, West Virginia, and all that other stuff. So you guys kind of saved me some money by doing this.
Well, that's one of the
that money to stay in Pennsylvania.
Yep, that's one of the big things too. It's like Mandy said there. I'm sorry, we're still Mandy. We're friends, so we call each other by our first name. So but that's one of the big things we're looking at too. Is not just the mitigation of the crop damage for the farmers. There's an economic benefit there, but people staying in the state and people coming to the state.
Yep.
Like yourself, I'm a hunter. I've hunted Ohio and New York a lot. Both of them have Sunday hunting. And it's not an issue, I hear some of the stuff about the farms, and some of our communities, like our Mennonite community or Amish community. Well, they don't want people hunting their farms on Sunday. Well, I can tell you right now, I hunt New York goose hunt up there, and the people I hunt with, it's big Mennonite area. Yeah. They lease some of those Mennonite farms. The Mennonites say, you're not hunting here on Sunday, so we go hunt somewhere else. It's not an issue. It really isn't. Right. Like you were saying, we have the Federation of Sportsmen's Clubs, Hunter Nation. Another big organization was Hush, who, Hunters United for Sunday Hunting. They were in that conversation for years. When your name is United for Sunday Hunting, then of course BHA was in there. All the outdoors groups were in there. Everyone wanted to see it done. It was just a matter of people taking the lead. And fortunately, with my relationship with Mandy, we were able to help with that a lot. And did a lot with her to educate a lot of other people too. Many phone calls on my front deck with Mandy and other representatives discussing things that they don't necessarily understand, like you and I understand. It's second nature to me. Mandy asked a question, she doesn't even know, and not being mean here to her, but like the difference between a game lands, state forest, and a state park.
Right.
Well, unless you're us and you do what you and I do, you may not know the difference.
Right.
So.
Yeah, when I was up at Lynn Run not too long ago, I was up there talking to one of the park rangers, and I've always hunted mushrooms and stuff like that in the spring. I did not realize until I started looking into it that there were specific laws for me to go into state forest and pick mushrooms. There's some state forest that you need a permit to pick mushrooms. Now, if you don't pay attention to this stuff, you go in there, you pick a bucket of mushrooms and you come walking out and the state ranger gets you. You can't say, hey, I didn't know. So I learned a lot just talking to that ranger, because he was telling me all the different permits and stuff that I needed to have to do that. So, it's kind of good to get out there and run into these guys and, and make yourself available to people like you and sit down and have these conversations, get you guys to come on this, because I guarantee you most of my listeners are not the people that would ever stop and talk to a political figure. They're just not going to do it.
I hope that people, I like to do these podcasts because I want people to understand that we legislators, like I'm not a natural politician. I'm just a mom. We've got 4 kids. We have a little small farm, and I'm just trying to do what's right. And so I got involved in this. And we need people to educate us on things. We do not know everything, and so we need good advocates. If you know something like that, you feel a legislator needs to know, you should call us and email us because we want to know. We want to do the best we possibly can, and this is a team effort as far as I see it. And I really rely on the people that I represent, my constituents, to share information with me, and the allies and friendships that I've made across the state and this area and all kinds of different areas. So I just want people to realize that we're not enigmas. We're just, the neighbor down the street.
Right. So once all that got pushed through, then it was like a mad rush for the game commission to now I'm probably going to go somewhere that they gave us 10 days, and I've looked at Facebook since that happened, and I have seen some of the I don't know how to say it, some of the most rude comments that I've ever seen about this whole deal. Well, why didn't they give us late season? Why didn't they give us? I said, I took 2 hours out of work to watch that whole meeting that day so that I could understand why we were getting what we got. And once you sat down and you listened to it, it was the deer numbers and the science behind all that.
Yeah.
It perfectly makes sense. Waterfowl is not included in that because it's not run by the state. Basically, it's run by the federal, and they give you a certain allotment of days. And people still can't figure this out. I got people calling me all the time asking me, well, why didn't they give us turkey season? That's next year. That's not this spring. You got to wait. There's more meetings. Something might happen. So, I try to explain it the best I can, but that's why I wanted to have you guys on, and you guys can explain how it got to where it is and what we're looking at to go forward. So
yeah, well, I'll just say quickly, and then I'll pass it to Dan. But I'll say that I've been really impressed with Director Smith at the Game Commission and his team of scientists, wildlife biologists, forest ecologists, and how every decision that they make is so carefully crafted on the science that they have. It's truly a science-based wildlife management philosophy that they're using, and it's very impressive. But Dan, will you talk a little bit more about the Sundays?
Yeah, sure. Like you said, we got the 10 extra ones now this fall. That's the most time that most people are hunting this in the fall. So they were able to look at that with the deer numbers and know what they have there and get us in where they feel comfortable. I think when we start looking at those late seasons, with all the new seasons they're putting in there on these extended rifles, and there's a lot that is just happening in the last year. And this year there's some in there with the DMAPs that who knows what the results are going to be from those. So I think that was a very prudent decision by the Game Commission to say, we need to wait. We can't put everything in at once. We need to see where we're at scientifically with these seasons. And I think to avoid confusion, again, my personal view, they didn't put in, well, you can hunt rabbits on this Sunday, but you can't hunt deer. You know what I mean? So I think they just tailored it that if there's a Sunday, whatever's in season is allowed to be hunted. So I think if you started getting into that with the late season, it was going to make things pretty patchwork and not consistent. So I'm kind of happy with what they did. Obviously, I spoke at the meeting that you took the time to watch.
Yep.
Our thing with Hunter Nation and most of the other groups is we want the most opportunities we can have for our Pennsylvania hunters while maintaining scientific-based wildlife management, utilizing the North American model of wildlife management. So the more days we can get, the better. But if they have to slowly roll some days in, that's how it's going to be. In the turkey thing, as you and I know, across the state, there's some areas of the state where turkey populations are down, other areas where they're not down as much. So they're in a big study also right now, which will be winding up in the next few months to see where our turkey populations are. So it didn't surprise me because I've known the turkey biologist since I was a little boy. It didn't surprise me that she was, holding on to that break and saying, wait a minute, we're going to wait and see where we're at and what's going on. It does not surprise me at all. And there's some things to look at there with the spring gobbler season. I mean, we have the 2 tags. Do we necessarily maintain still having 2 tags until we see what additional opportunities are going to do for harvest? We have the half the season where we have all day hunting. So I think there's some stuff there. Plus, I mean, we know, I mean, you guys know especially well out there in Allegheny County, we had a lot of rain here in Huntington County. There's a lot of concern over the poults, you know what I mean, and what our poult recruitment is for this year. So I think that was a very prudent decision by them. I'd love it. I mean, I want to be out spring gobbler hunting on a Sunday as much as anybody else does, but I also know that we have to go by that science, and that's the most important thing is the science-based management. Opportunities are great, but we have to do it science-based.
Yep. I had Mary Jo on the podcast back in the spring, and I participated in that, counting the turkeys over the fall, and then I did, I've been letting her know what I've been seeing on my deer lease as far as poults. And like you said, we've had a ton of rain. I'm here in Westmoreland County, and I haven't mowed my deer lease at all this year. My fields are 6 foot tall right now. My food plots are 3 to 4 foot tall, and I'm not mowing them just because of the fact that I haven't seen poults. And my coyote population is getting a little out of hand because I can't get my neighbors who have their farms beside me to get on board with, taking enough coyotes, and they won't give me permission to take them off of their property. So I got to try to do it all on 200 acres, and it's not working.
The coyotes are killing my chickens like crazy this year.
I'm glad because when we were younger, we didn't have coyotes to go after. I'm glad we have them now. And I feel just the same with the marten, that they want to reintroduce it, let the population get to where we can control it by trapping, hunting, whatever we have to do. The coyotes have gotten out of hand.
Yeah.
And we're losing. We don't
they
have
are cool.
trap.
Nothing.
Oh, they are.
Nothing cooler than hearing them at night when I'm putting my kids down and we all run to the window and listen to them. It's so neat.
Yep.
I love it.
But we're losing trappers. Mm-hmm. I've been trapping since I was 12 years old. That is one of the biggest reasons I started this podcast, is to get more children involved in trapping. I do an event called Chico Outdoors. Bill Duke is one of my sponsors. He sends me traps. I give traps away to the kids. I tell the parents, if they want to go spend a day with me, I will gladly skip a day on my trap line and go show them how to run one, or I'll take them on my line and let them take care of my line. I just want to see more kids out there because this is a lost art.
Hey, did you ever see that movie I think it's called Happy People? Did you ever hear about that? Huh. It's really neat. It's a documentary kind of, but it's about these fur trappers that are in this remote village in Siberia, and how they trap, like that's their way of, that's their economy and everything. They're still living that traditional lifestyle. It's a neat movie.
What is it called?
I think it's called Happy People. People, here it is. Happy People, a Year in the Taiga, or however you say that, TIAGA.
Yeah, the taiga. Yeah. Happy People. I'm writing this down because I'm going to go look for it when we're done.
Yeah, let me know what you think.
Yeah, so getting these Sundays is a big milestone. Now, I'm sure you have all heard about the Saturday opener. And
yes, heard a lot about it.
I am all for the Saturday opener. I have been, and it stems back to my children, got to do the mentor program. My daughter played travel softball. My son played football. So Saturdays, they didn't get to go hunting. Sundays, they did. Then when we moved to the Saturday opener, my daughter was in college. So she would come home to go Saturday and hunt with me and then go back to school on Monday. I don't know if kids still get Monday off of school for.
So they used to in Southwestern PA, but they stopped that, recently.
There are still most schools that are off on a Monday, especially in more rural areas of the state. The problem is when you start adding up people at those schools, you can say, okay, 75% of the schools are still off, but then you look at it and you say, okay, 75%, but that 25% that was off, what percentage of actual kids is that? Not numbers of schools. So there's a big disparity there with the kids being off. Plus, the other thing too, I mean, honestly, even if they're off Monday, now they can hunt Saturday, Sunday, and they're off school Monday. They got 3 days rather than 1 day. So
Yep.
it's still a win-win. Again, like I said, we're all about the opportunities for people at Hunter Nation, and that's what most of the other groups are about: is opportunities, as long as it's science-based. And then the other problem is nothing against any of our legislators as far as them being the ones that make that decision on when seasons and bank limits should be occurring. Mandy and I've had this discussion before. It took us 50 years to get Sunday hunting since the actual push really started. Could you imagine if this was legislated to be a Monday opener, and then all of a sudden we realize, well, maybe we don't want that? We'd be fighting another 50 years to get it back to where the Game Commission can make that decision. So that's the scary part about it. Once you put it into a legislative issue rather than a regulatory issue, to me and to most of the other groups. If the Game Commission were to decide we got to move it back to Monday, okay, I may not be happy, but at least it's the Game Commission doing it, and they're able to pivot on it a lot quicker than the legislature can.
That's I was going to ask that. Can lawmakers get involved to push this forward?
Well, the way that would start is in committee. So any of these bills that eventually become law, they all have to start in a committee. So I serve on the Game and Fisheries Committee in the House, and that committee is chaired by Representative Anita Kulik. And Chair Kulik, it's an issue that we all hear about a lot. So she really wanted to give it, lots of air and get it in front of the committee. And so we had a public hearing about that, and people from both sides came and gave testimony in front of us, and a lot of work went into that. And but her feeling at this time is very similar to what Dan was just saying, which is that the decision it really belongs in the hands of the experts, of the scientists and the wildlife biologists, and that's with the Game Commission, not the legislature. So for now, that decision will remain with the Game Commission.
That's as far as we're going to go with that conversation.
Good decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
I got to spend the weekend for the first time in the 22 years that I've been applying for the elk license up there at the elk thing for the first time. I went up to that. And again, 22 years, I still haven't drawn yet, but hopefully it'll come next year, maybe the year after that. But I am going up to do some filming for some people who did draw tags. So that'll be fun.
Cool.
But
That'll be neat.
Either one of yous applied or...
Dan?
I apply every year. I don't get drawn. My father finally got drawn last year. He got a late season cow tag. It was a great hunt. All my brothers and there's 5 boys. My one brother doesn't hunt anymore. He wasn't with us, but the rest of us, probably the first time we've hunted together in a gang like that in years. We had a blast. Last day, 2 hours to go, we finally got him, because there were a lot of issues with my dad's mobility and his health and stuff. He's 82 years old. So we had to make everything happen just right, but we were finally able to get him one. And on that note also, my niece got drawn for a cow tag this year. So pretty excited.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Dan. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I just found out a good friend of mine right up the road, his daughter got drawn for a bull tag. 2 years ago, a buddy of mine's son put in the first time ever put it in and got drawn for a bull tag. So I've had a pretty good run here the last 3 years. I know people who are getting drawn, but sooner or later, one of these years, maybe I'll get drawn. So
we have a pretty big celebrity coming to Pennsylvania to elk hunt this year. Greg Ritz from the Hunt Masters.
Oh,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he will be here. He's actually going out with Brian Hale from Elk County Outfitters. So yeah, that's
that's
going to be,
exciting.
yeah, it'll be pretty interesting to see how Greg puts it on the Sportsman's Channel and all that. You know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. So cool.
the changes that came about with that, I was listening to Jeremy. Well, talk to Jeremy before everything happened up there, and he was telling me about all the changes that were going on with the elk drawing, and I think that's going to be a good thing in the future too. It'll make a lot more Pennsylvanians happier that we'll get a better chance to get that tag. You know.
Yeah. Well, I'll be pulling for you, Rob. I hope you get lucky.
I just want to do it when I've got to do it in Montana. I've got to do it in Colorado.
Yeah. Cool.
I did draw a Maine moose tag, which everybody tells me that's like almost impossible.
That's the holy grail there, bud.
I drew that, and things didn't work out the way they should have. I missed the bull at 25 yards with the bow, so it was my own fault. They are a lot bigger than what you think they are, and I completely misjudged them. I mean, I shot at 25 yards. I shot right over his back because I thought he was 10 yards away. But it was fun. It was an interesting experience, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. The first time I saw them, I was like shocked and really frightened at how huge they are. They're like it's almost like a moose.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that experience. Just kind of like the first time I saw them, I was with one of my kids, and they were just off in this like really dark little shaded stand of trees, and they were just standing there and making those calls, and it just gives you chills. It's so neat.
Yep.
Yeah, but for me, I'm not in any kind of drawing like that. I'm still a small game lady, so maybe someday I'll get there, but I'm not there quite yet.
You're not going to try to whitetail hunt this year?
No, I really want to get my skills. I want to get really good before I'm there. And so I'm sticking with small game for this year, but I think next year that's the plan for whitetail.
That'll be, yeah. I mean, if you guys want a place to go, let me know. I know a ton of public land that we can go hunt squirrels, and you know, if you ever want to try duck hunting, coyote hunting, let me know. I'm more than willing to take anybody out just to pass it on and train people, you know, let people learn what it's all about.
I can't believe how many great people are in this community. It's really neat. I mean, I can't tell you how many people say to me, "Hey, do you need someone to take you out, you and your kids and husband?" And it's just we've just been so welcome. I've really never experienced anything like this. It's so cool. I'm so pumped about this whole culture and everything that it represents, and I love it. And I think I'm a good advocate too, because I'm not a likely advocate. You know, I'm a Democrat woman from Pittsburgh, who's really, you know, I'm an environmentalist at my core, but that gives me credibility with people who we need to get on board, who I can connect with in a different way, and just kind of normalize hunting and talk about how safe it is and how I'm comfortable with my kids, you know, doing this, because it really is incredibly safe. And that's something that people who are on the outside, they don't understand. They think this is, you know, they think hunters are a danger to them. They're just not. The data is just not there. A hunter is not going to get you. You know,
No.
you might get killed riding your horse, but it's not going to be from a hunter accidentally shooting you. So I feel like I feel so grateful for being welcomed in, and I feel like I can give back by being a useful ally to the hunting community.
Dan, what actually does the Hunter Nation do? I guess we need to touch that.
Yeah, we're an advocacy group, the national level, and here at the state level in Pennsylvania. National level is, you know, the wolf declassifications. They'd like to get a lot of that moving. Again, for management purposes, nothing wrong with reintroducing wolves or other predators, but getting it in the state's hand to manage. That's one of the big pushes for Hunter Nation at that level. In the state, we're trying to get more state chapters up and running. Pennsylvania, Wisconsin were probably the biggest two there are, and most of it is advocacy work, getting down to Harrisburg, meeting people. Some groups like the Federation, they're more about sportsmen's clubs. Not that they don't advocate in the Capitol, because they do. They have a full-time lobbyist there. But that's really our thing, is getting that advocacy in the state houses or in Washington, D.C. to say exactly what Mandy was just talking about. We're hunters. We're not bad guys. We're not the boogeyman. That was one of the biggest things, and Mandy can back me up on this, I'm sure. One of the biggest concerns that we had was from groups such as the hikers, bikers, bird watchers, and horseback rider people. Oh, Sundays now. Granted, they do their events during the week also. So, Monday, Friday, they're not afraid of hunters, but on Sundays they are. But hunting is you guys know, it's a safe sport. One of the things we presented whenever we had the hearing last year in front of the Game and Fisheries Committee, one of the things I made sure I did was I collected the Game Commission data on hunting-related shootings, and I submitted it to the committee. When we got to that point of the hearing, it was funny. I was actually sitting back watching one of the other guys from Hunter Nation testify about that, and everybody that was in that hearing room picked that paper up and was looking at it to follow those statistics. I remember it distinctly. That was one of the things. So we're really about the same thing. Retention, recruitment, retention, and reactivation of people. So that's one of the things we're hoping the Sunday hunting gets us is, somewhat that get people back in this or get people introduced to it. It's expensive. The hunting license isn't necessarily expensive. You got to start buying all the equipment that goes with hunting. If you're somebody starting out fresh and you don't have people to give it to you, that's a big expense. So if somebody will invest $1,000, $2,000 in hunting equipment, it's a hard thing to do if I'm only going to be able to hunt 1 or 2 days a year. Well, now with the Sundays added in, hopefully with that more opportunity, more people are saying, well, you know what? It's not so bad now to spend that little bit of extra money to go out hunting and enjoy the outdoors. So,
Right.
Yep.
Now, people can join the Hunter Nation too, right?
Oh, absolutely. If you go to our website, it's hunternation.org. That's hunternation.org. And just follow the links for joining. And there's all kinds of incentives to join. You put you in for, dream hunts, and there's a truck they're giving away in December. And there's all kinds of levels. I mean, you can start like $25 and go up to $500. $25 for most people, that's final. Just, it's a year membership, pretty basic. You're in the drawing, and you get the newsletter they send out. They email out every, couple months, every quarter or so. They send out that email unless something's going on and they send it out. So, we had a lot going on here in Pennsylvania. So it was seemed like I was getting emails constantly for the last couple of weeks saying Pennsylvania is really moving forward.
Yeah.
On that note, I have to go and pick up one of my kids from volleyball, but I wanted to tell you, Rob, about something that the next thing that I'm working on, if
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so we all know that the Game Commission can only pay a certain amount of money per acre when they're buying land, and so what that's meant is that all of the state game lands are concentrated in the northern tier, and we've got very little access down here in southwest and southeast Pennsylvania, and so thinking about how we can change that dynamic and really get more access, because it's a big problem for us down here. We, in many cases, have to drive pretty far to be able to reach a state game lands. And so I've got the legislation, and Dan has been helping me on this, as well as some others. The executive director, Paul Scott, of the committee is really excellent. But what we're going to try to do is advance a bill that would kind of allow the Game Commission to pay a fair market value in certain places. So counties of a certain class, which would largely be Pittsburgh area, Pittsburgh and surrounding, Philly and surrounding, in order to increase access to our hunters in those areas. So that's exciting. That's one of my main areas of focus for this upcoming session, which begins in September, and it'll be a fun project to work on.
Well, I will definitely follow along with that because I agree that we do need more land down that way and out towards Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I don't mind driving up north. I kind of like it up there. I think I should have been born up there and stayed up there, but My parents brought me down this way, and now here I am in Greensburg. So
Yeah. I hear you on that.
make do with where you end up.
That's right.
But
Well, it sounds like you're doing it. Sounds like you're out and about in the wild places. So
well, I appreciate you
good
coming
for you.
on. If you have to go jump off of here, I appreciate it. Dan, if you want to stick around and finish this out, we can talk some more hunting. It's up to you
Up
guys.
to you.
If
you got more questions, I'm willing to answer. But I think we've pretty well hit the hunting on the Sunday hunting and the other things. And like Mandy's saying about that bill, we're all in on that, trying to get that thing moving forward for you guys in those more populated counties. And like to drive up north and go hunting, but when you get off work at 3:00 on a Tuesday, it'd be great to have something that's a little closer to be able to slide out for a few hours. So
yep. Well, then, if Miss Steele, if you want to tell everybody where they can find you or how to get a hold of you, real quick, and then we'll do.
Yeah. So you can email me or call me anytime if you've got ideas about things that make sense for the hunters out there in Pennsylvania. You can look me up, just Representative Mandy Steele. If you just Google that, you'll get to my webpage, Rep Steele on all social media. My office phone number is 724-826-5151. I'd love to hear from you. So please look me up.
Dan, you want to tell everybody where they can find you and the Hunter Nation?
Yeah, like I said before, hunternation.org. You go on and find it on there, and just you can join us right in, and we're all good to go from there. So everything goes right through to us from hunternation.org. And we also have a Facebook group that's Pennsylvania. We have the national Facebook group, which is Hunter Nation, but then we also have a Facebook group for Pennsylvania specifically, which is Hunter Nation Pennsylvania, and that's specifically what we're doing here in Pennsylvania.
Okay. Well, I'm going to hit a sponsor button real quick. It'll take about a minute, and then we can end this thing for you guys to go do what you got to do.
Okay.
Check out these fine sponsors: Apparition Scent, Chico Outdoors Incorporated, Back 40 Seed Company, Gearhead Archery, Forget Genetics, Trapline Beard Oil, Weeby Knives, Wreck Broadheads, Coon Creek Trappers, Redline Bow Hunting, Rack and Stick, Scout Tech, XL Construction and Renovations LLC, Warhead Arrow Company, Black River Shot Company, Coyote Cords, Rocco Family Farms, Steve Rocco Media, Bustin' Fur Audio. Watch us on Carbon TV. Listen to us every Wednesday on the Outdoor Call Radio. Follow along on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Subscribe to the YouTube channel.